Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it and give this video a like.
Podcast below in the description. Check it out as well. You might be wondering what I'm holding. That'd be my friends at geology.com/ham. Check it out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, baby. That link
Everyday
is down there
face
too.
wash.
You know, John, we've been doing a lot of YouTubes, and it's like, guys, you got to step it up. You got to look good for the camera. Night repairing cream, Vital morning cream.
Everyday face
off.
wash. Yeah, check it out.
40% off, courtesy of us. Thanks, Geology. All right. So one thing that Schefter told Mayoko, just a little drop it in, I think they have a high opinion of Trey Lance. And the more you read, the more people you talk to, the more you read and hear other people, there are a lot of things that it seems like Kyle would attach to with this guy, who, by the way, turns 21 after the draft in May. He's 20 years old.
I texted him with a buddy on Saturday. I'm like, have you watched Trey Lance? He's like, actually just kind of bored, had a couple pops. I was going to throw him in right now. His team is not in the quarterback mix. Calls me about 30 minutes later. He's like, you know what? I could see Kyle Shanahan liking him. And I said, why? He said, you should see this guy throw on the run and on the move. I'm like, what's Kyle's bread and butter? The play action boot pass, right? It became a cheat code this year for Rodgers. It was like, Aaron, if you just embrace this offense, it won't be fair. He's like, okay, I'll give in. MVP! Matt Ryan the first year was like, I didn't love turning my back to the defense, and he embraced it, MVP. But Matt Ryan, unlike Rodgers, wasn't a great athlete. And you saw it with Goff. There were guys wide open. It was just always a little awkward when he was on the move. And Jimmy's decision-making wasn't that good. My buddy's like, this guy's actually pretty accurate. And I said, what do you think about the Kaepernick comp? He's like, actually, I kind of thought that too watching him. Now, he's like, I do think he's much more accurate on the move. Touch, he said, was something that would be a concern. But he's like, if you look at recent memory, if you get a high character guy, this guy is. If you get a guy that everyone loves, this guy's represented by Tom Condon. Full disclosure, we've been trying to get him on the show. Clearly, they're keeping him a little low profile. He's represented by Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Alex Smith, Stafford. Like, they don't mess with no issues. Like, they ain't fucking around. And to me, that's a positive. And on top of Trey Lance, it's like he's just this raw product that you get to mold. I could see maybe their Jimmy ploy is, because his point is like, well, you know how you thought, talking to me, that Jimmy's a foregone conclusion gone at the draft. If you draft Trey Lance, maybe because he's only played the 1 year, you just at least wait till some training camp practices. No, okay, we got like this guy can start, or maybe he's clearly not ready before you pull the trigger on Jimmy. It gives you a contingency plan. Almost like we used to say this a lot with guys in a draft room on Talking Players. Like, if he goes to the right coach, he could be a Pro Bowler. If he goes to the wrong place, out of the league 3 years. It was the ultimate, like, cover your ass. But it's a natural, you and I do it, like most humans do it, right? It's not. If Trey Lance, what if he's not ready, and there's no way to know if he would be ready because he just hasn't played? I would backpedal a little bit on my Jimmy is gone draft night if Trey Lance is the pick, even though I think Jimmy's time would still be numbered maybe by week 1. But I think you would want to see something with a guy that's been a 1-year starter and, like you said, 20 years old.
I watched a video today from several weeks ago from NFL Network. I just stumbled into it doing some Trey Lance reading, and it was our buddy Lance Zierlein saying that he thinks Trey Lance is a great fit for the Niners, and if the Niners want to keep Jimmy around, then Trey Lance is actually the perfect quarterback for them to draft. But he also referenced a bunch of stuff like his offense is very similar, West Coast, a lot of bootlegs, a lot of fullback and tight end throws, very long. I saw some quotes from the North Dakota State offensive coordinator from like 2 months ago, and he said our verbiage is long, like it's Shanahan-esque long play calls.
Should we shoot that guy an email tomorrow?
They make one thing he said was our guys have to make calls from the huddle. No one even huddles anymore. Our guys have to play call in the huddle. And then Trey Lance has a lot of responsibility at the line of scrimmage pre-snap. Like, I think there is a lot. One thing you've said a lot is you can draft a guy, But once you get him, you just don't. There's a lot of stuff you don't know how he's going to handle it until he's in your building. I do think one thing you could try to do is
football stuff too, like because even draft picks, you're projecting their football, and a lot of times it doesn't parallel stuff. That's where that is a huge benefit.
Yeah, what if
there's
the guy
some parallel
makes
plays.
throws that you call? What if the guy has to do some of the things that creates a big learning curve for your quarterbacks, like it did for Matt Ryan, the long play calls. So I do think there are some areas where Shanahan could try and project
under center.
Under center, I think you can watch the tape and know that the adjustments being made at the line of scrimmage are. You could probably get in the film room and ask him about it a little bit and find out how much he was really doing at the line of scrimmage, because according to his coaches, it's a lot. And only 20. I think Kyle would love the idea of it. Like, you could argue that Kyle can do way more molding with Trey Lance than he can do with Justin Fields, that Justin Fields maybe is a little bit closer. Not that you can't do that stuff with Justin Fields too, but just that there is way more clay to work with when it comes to Trey Lance. So I think there's a lot there. And, you and I talked about how dumb some of the Ohio State quarterbacks has succeeded. I mean, we're talking about guys that were not drafted very high, but this is now the third straight NFL quarterback that North Dakota State has produced. Maybe there's something to the way they coach these guys in college.
Totally agree. I was watching some Path to the Draft I think on Friday, actually, and DJ ranked Fields and Lance, just how 1-2, who he'd take. Because I do think there are parallels between it's just going to go Trevor, it's going to go Zach. Most human beings do not believe Mac Jones is in Trey Lance or Justin Fields category. I would agree. He took Lance over Fields. And one comment he had, he just like, I think there's just more urgency to the way he plays. He just his play style is just twitchier. And that's to the Kaepernick comparison, who I said, well, in the clips I watched, I thought he was a little more fluid. He's like, yeah, NFL people, when they're super locked in, he's like, I still think he's a little tight. Like, he's not going to be Kyler or Vic or Lamar juking people out. But his athleticism, like young Kaepernick's, is a huge, huge benefit, right? Young Kaepernick could just run away from guys. And just even if it could get to the sideline for 5 or 6 yards, which is something Jimmy doesn't bring to the table, I think drafting Trey Lance would be an all-time curveball, because for the fans, they wanted no part of Mac and they wanted Justin Fields. But I don't think they could. He did take a huge swing, right? And then it would just be kind of Trey Lance from then on out would be being compared to wherever Justin Fields ends up going, right?
I don't think it's nothing. Now, maybe he would have done this before if Fields had his workout and Mac had their workout before the Niners just traded up to 3. Maybe the Niners would have attended none of them, right? The Mac workout came and the Fields workout came on the same day.
Well, they're doing
the Niners.
Yeah, they're doing like 7 pro days too. So
so now you're getting other ones. But I don't think it's nothing. Like, one thing I've just kept in the back of my head, I don't think it's nothing that the Niners didn't go to the Trey Lance workout back when they were drafting 12.
Yes, I agree.
I don't think that's nothing. And
Kyle's talked about that. The reason when they've been in the back before, why they don't go to workouts,
right. And
they
then
don't
he
want
said
to
it at the press conference. So I do think there's something here with Trey Lance. And as someone who has said I'd love Justin Fields as a draft pick for Kyle, I would be very intrigued by Trey Lance at 3. Like, if he makes that pick, I would call that an inspired pick. Like, that is a high ceiling potential pick.
I'm going to go on record right now saying April 11th, I think Trey Lance is the guy they end up taking. The more I thought about it a lot after talking to some people, I've been trying to put their puzzle together. I think that Trey Lance makes actually a lot of sense. Like, backing it up, you got to reverse it, because before he was the sleeper kind of the group, including Mac Jones, because he was the small school guy. No one watched him play live. But I think in NFL circles, it's why I think you hear a lot of, like, Washington loves him, other teams like him. He is the upside guy that no one knows. Like, the reason Justin Fields gets talked about the most, and this is classic every year, the guy from the biggest school with a lot of talent is going to be the guy that everyone wants.
And that got doesn't the numbers make him to back it up, right?
Yeah, it doesn't make him the best prospect, and part of it is projecting. Kyle might see things in Trey Lance that he likes over Justin Fields. Like, if it comes Saturday or Thursday night, they take Trey Lance and pass on Justin Fields, like, are we talking about that as like a controversial decision, or is that celebrated?
I think it's celebrated. I think it'll be controversial only in this, not in like an angry controversy.
It's not Mac!
Yeah, well, exactly. That would be celebrated. But I think it would be controversial only in the sense that, like, Justin Fields is a really good prospect. So you made a choice here. But I think, like, to me, Lance.
Who are you leaning they take right now at 3?
So it's funny you say this. Last week I was texting with somebody who covers the team, and we were going back and forth about why we both think it'll be Lance. I hadn't necessarily settled on that because then the Mac Jones stuff kind of picked up. Fields feels too easy. If I had to make odds right now, I would also go Lance because it's been the quietest guy they've been on.
Yeah.
Right. So
honestly, that's the way I follow the Niners. Like the quieter they are, in something like this where you like know the 2 or 3 guys, it's got to be that.
And I think some of this stuff is the easiest to match them with when we start talking about all the things that Trey Lance did in college, his youth. And the other thing I was going to say is I think Lance. I don't love the Kaepernick comp to Lance from what I've watched Trey Lance. I don't see it. Because I think he is – I don't think his arm is as strong downfield as Collins is, but I think he does a lot of other stuff better than Collins
I think they're talking more like body type and movement-wise. It's stuff like that.
But to me, where the comp would be is – ready for this double comp? Mahomes and Josh Allen. I'm not saying he's those guys. I'm just saying the leap is bigger for him. Like, the leap was bigger for Josh Allen than it was for some of the other guys in his draft. The projection on Mahomes, right, took a little more vision than, like, the Deshaun Watson projection. Would you agree with that based on college production? Like, that one took a little more vision. I'm putting Lance in that category only from that standpoint. Like, it just takes a little more vision, but because of that untapped potential, the ceiling is higher. It would not surprise me in the least.
Kyle Shanahan just texted me, said he loved your comp. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Josh Allen with a little Mahomes. Yeah,
Josh Allen with a little
that's
Mahomes.
Why we're taking him.
It's like every college senior when you ask him like who he plays basketball like. It's like Kobe, but
that
MJ,
makes it sound like
LeBron.
not as awesome as like if you just went Mahomes, a little bit of Josh Allen. That's too great. You gotta go. He's Josh Allen with a little Mahomes sprinkled.
Yeah, and some
and then and a little Kaepernick, to kind of equal it out.
I think what I mean by it, the simplest way to put it is I just think it would not surprise me if Shanahan thinks that Lance's ceiling is higher than Justin Fields. And when I mention him with Allen and Mahomes, all I'm talking about is the gap between what they've done and where their ceiling actually is.
Well, and think about this. And this is why I had such an issue with when I still had to, and I still acknowledge, like Mac Jones is a possibility of investing your life savings in the safe route when, like you have been saying the whole time, and anyone with a brain, there is no such thing as safe in the NFL with the even luck. And definitely Mac Jones is not. It would just been like, I think I mentioned this like an oxymoron. It's like the polar opposite. You do one move here and then the final result is the opposite. This would be, if you are going to take just a swing for the fence, you double down on taking the guy that is the swing for the fence, right? I think what makes him so intriguing / just there's just so much unknown. And I think anytime you have an unknown, like no one's seen him. You can go on YouTube and watch highlights. There is just a difference of being a Niner fan and watching a couple Mac Jones, Justin Fields, even Zach Wilson. Like you've just seen him play live on your couch. There's some comfort in that. I'm not saying there wouldn't be comfort in this pick just because it's not Mac Jones. But I do think some people would be like, wow, this is pretty risky, right?
Yeah, but again, I think they're all risky. And I think if
I'm
risky
Shanahan, the moment they traded, so we might as well I'd go double down on the risk.
Wait a second. You're telling me this guy's barely played football and he's this level of prospect and he's this high level of guy? All the stuff, and we've talked about it, this Justin Fields banged the table when they were not going to let him play. Justin Fields said, we want to play. And, he gets a lot of credit for that. And he should. But Trey Lance should get a lot of credit for Minnesota wanted him to be a safety. And he was like, no, I am a quarterback. I'm going to be a quarterback. I think I said this a couple of weeks ago. My perspective on Tebow, how I changed my perspective on him. I used to be with the crowd yelling, Tim, if you really love football, you would switch to H-back. Tim's like, no, I want to be a quarterback. I want to see if I can do that. And I used to kind of mock him for it, and I was stupid. I give him nothing but respect for that. He knew what he wanted to be. He didn't want to be an H-back. It doesn't mean he didn't love football. He wanted to be a quarterback. Trey Lance wanted to be a quarterback. And his only chance to do that was to go to North Dakota State, and he did it. Look at what he's done. I mean, he did it, John. That's pretty incredible.
Hashtag bet on yourself.
He should get so much credit for that. Just like Justin, just like all these guys. Like,
should we change the name of this pod to Bet on Yourself?
Bet on Yourself pod.
That's what we did. Sometimes you just got to, and it's a little easier now. I think it was much more just natural in college football for guys to switch positions. I remember being at Fresno State, and we would offer guys as athletes, and they would think they could play quarterback, and then they'd be playing corner by like the third week. That used to be very, very prevalent at bigger schools, like the Power 5 schools, right? When guys could go to, let's say, a Fresno State and play quarterback. Fresno was a bad example because they ran a pro style, but some of just a Tulsa or whoever just ran some of these weird offenses and potentially play quarterback. Houston, but if you wanted to go to Ohio State, you might have to play safety. And I think guys that stuck it out and actually got to play quarterback, even if it wasn't on Power 5, I bet a lot of them would say, I'm fucking glad I did it. I got to be a 3-year starter. Yeah. And this is the best case scenario when you become a big-time draft pick. But would you rather play quarterback and be a 3-year starter at Nevada, or would you rather be a safety at Oregon and maybe start 1 year and not be an NFL player, right? Because the reality is most guys aren't NFL players on a college football team. And that's at Ohio State, let alone at Oregon State, right?
Minnesota.
Let alone at Minnesota or Nevada. So I give, if you believe in something and you like doing it, reading would be strong. Listening to Steve Young's book, he was big on that. Remember, he was going to tell BYU no because North Carolina allowed him to play quarterback. Right. And he got lucky. They ultimately dropped a scholarship or whatever, and he got to go there. But I give you a lot of credit. Like, you had a belief when you were in high school. A lot of kids, whether it's football, whether it's just life, are more unsure and more willing to just go with the coolest thing or just kind of follow the pack. I give people a lot of credit that have a distinct vision at 16, 17, 18 years old, because that, to me, that tells something a lot about someone's future. I mean, look at Haberman.
Yeah, look at me. Yeah, I mean, it says something about work ethic if you pull it off, too. Like, I just think there's so much of this, all the questions that you have about a guy, I think Kyle can get some of the answers that you can't always get about guys when it comes to Trey Lance. And the only other thing I would say about this right now is, while you're right, if they draft him, it might make it more likely that Garoppolo is their quarterback. It also would mean if Garoppolo is their quarterback, that Trey Lance basically has gone 2 years without playing football games.
It'd be a lot of sitting.
It'd be a lot of sitting. I don't know if they'd want to do that. Maybe they think it'd be good. I don't know. But it also would give him an opportunity.
We got a lot of Trey Lance talk to carry us.
It'd give him a lot of opportunity to
jot that note down.
A lot better 2 years later than he did the last time we saw him.
That's a good topic about May 10th.
Okay, got it. All right.
If Jimmy survives.
Ham Pod is in on Trey Lance as the pick.
Yes.